Hello, spooky friends. If horror movie years were like wine, 1973 would be a fine vintage indeed. Whenever you mention television horror from this decade, people bring up four movies: Trilogy of Terror, The Night Stalker, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, and Satan's School for Girls. We have two of those in 1973, and we'll be starting this video with one of them.
Now read all of
Satan's School for Girls hits the ground running. Martha Sayers, played by Terry Lumley, has flown across the country and driven like a madwoman to the home of her sister, Elizabeth, clearly hoping for safety. She does not find it. Elizabeth, played by Pamela Franklin, is convinced her sister didn't turn herself into an indoor mobile, so she flies to Massachusetts to question Martha's former roommate. The roommate says nothing, but in a very suspicious manner. Elizabeth thinks there must be something fishy going on at her sister's school, so she changes her name and goes undercover. Here she meets two Charlie's Angels, a groovy art teacher played by Roy Thinnis, and a psych professor obsessed with making mice passive through frustration and terror, played by Lloyd Bachner. I'm feeling the mice. Girls keep dying, but we're not really given any clues as to what's happening until the very end. And that, I think, is the flaw in this film. I would like to have seen some more occult doodads or some kind of clue path to the solution. Except for the simpering of the students toward a particular teacher, there isn't anything to go on, and students do teacher worship all the time. This is a classic, and it was definitely fun, and I encourage you to watch it, but because I think it got a little lazy, especially in the art direction, I'm giving it a B. I talked about Don't Be Afraid of the Dark in my video on 3 actually scary movies from 1973, because it's actually scary. The Farnhams have moved to a new house, and Sally, played by Kim Darby, is remodeling and modernizing. Take note of the avocado kitchen and matching pans. There's a small room with a blocked fireplace, and she's not having that. She tries to get the handyman to help her unblock it, but he insists it should be left as it is. Always heed the warnings of old folks in horror movies. She finally gets the fireplace open to see it has a very deep clean-out pit, and that night the pit's occupants creep forth. To quote myself, they are tiny, nightmare-inducing cone heads, and one of my favorite ever character designs. The goblins want to take Sally to the pit and make her one of them, and this was something I found viscerally terrifying as a child, and those final scenes messed me up. It's great, but a bit overacted, and there is some stupid in there, so it gets bumped down to A tier. The best thing about Scream Pretty Peggy is that Bette Davis is in it. I suspect she needed the cash. It's the story of Peggy, played by Cyan Barbara Allen, who takes a job as a housekeeper for a sculptor and his aging mother. Bette Davis plays Mrs. Elliot, the aging mother, who urges Peggy to quit again and again. Come on, people. Again, always listen to old people in horror movies. The job was open because the former housekeeper got the stabbity stab, and Mrs. Elliot knows who did it, and you probably know who did it too. The ending is a disappointing relic of the 70s that I hope we've left behind. Only Betty boosts this to the D tier. When my family watched this 2-night television event in 1973, we thought that the true part in Frankenstein: The True Story meant this was an accurate adaptation of the novel. It is not even in the same galaxy as the novel. That doesn't mean it isn't good. This is the Frankenstein adaptation that sucked up all the attention in the early 70s, and everyone so inclined had a crush on David Sarrazin. One note, this is available on Amazon Prime, but the length has been cut almost in half. This is not a movie full of unnecessary fluff, so I don't even want to know what was removed. I recommend watching the 3-hour version on YouTube. Sadly, the version on the Internet Archive is the wrong aspect ratio, so we get to look at everyone through a funhouse mirror. The one thing they do get right is the shallowness of Frankenstein, played by Leonard Whiting, who abandons his creature as soon as he is no longer
beautiful.
They create an extra villain in the form of Dr. Polidori, overplayed by James Mason. Using the name Polidori added a bit of authenticity to the movie, not because he was in the book, but because he was also at the story competition with Mary Shelley. He wrote the first modern vampire story long before Stoker. Here, he pursues the same ends as Frankenstein, but does so chemically, which is closer to the novel. I find Polidori a little annoying, but without him, there's no way they could have made a 3-hour movie. My favorite part of this adaptation is Jane Seymour's Prima, who is deliciously nasty and meets a shocking but satisfying end that has stuck with me forever. All the characters here, especially the women, are thought out well and a lot of fun. It's a very good story, and I recommend watching it an hour at a time over a few days. There's a lot more to say about this movie, so I'll be making a whole video about it soon. For now, this legend goes in the S tier. Richard Basehart plays a tiger-loving lunatic in Maneater, also released as Evasion. Two couples, Nick and Gloria, played by Ben Gazzara and Cherie North, and Shep and Polly, played by Kip Niven and Laurette Spang, are off to camp in an RV, just like everyone else in the 70s, when their fan belt breaks. Shep rides his motorcycle off to a roadside attraction a few miles away to get help. The proprietor, Nick Brenner, played by Basehart, welcomes them, tows their RV, and feeds them dinner. Once the RV is fixed, he sends them to a really nice campsite. Also, he follows them, with his 2 tigers. See, his sweet babies have been cooped up for ages, and he wants them to get out and use them widow murder mittens. City boy Nick must devise clever ways of distracting their furry pursuers so they can make it to the ranger station. Sadly, much of this movie was apparently filmed in the California desert at night. Sure, there's action and pretty kitties, but you can't really see much because of this filming choice. It isn't a bad movie. It might have made it to a C+ if it were watchable, but trying to make things out on an incessantly dark screen is annoying as hell, so it gets a D. More murder mittens! We mostly don't get to see these either because the cat in the cat creature is shown in shadow when them mittens is working. A clever way to film a cat attack without trying to train a cat, and a clear homage to Val Lewton's Cat People movies. By the way, I recently watched a video about cats in movies and how it always takes multiple cats. It's fun and informative, and I'll link it below. If the setting looks familiar, that's Castillo del Lago in LA. Madonna used to live there. The cat creature begins with the assessment of a trove of Egyptian relics, including, of course, a sarcophagus. When the appraiser opens the sarcophagus with a crowbar, for God's sake, he finds a mummy with a peculiar cat head amulet. Fun bit of trivia, the appraiser is played by Kent Smith, who is in Val Lewton's films. When the appraiser leaves, a thief, played by Key Luke, sneaks in and steals the amulet, removing it from the mummy, and we all know that won't end well. The amulet changes hands several times, and each time the unfortunate owner is found clawed to death with their blood drained. Meredith Baxter is the alluring stranger Rena, who always seems to be at the center of things. The creature is pursued by Stuart Whitman and David Hedison, who becomes involved with Rena. My favorite part is the costume change at the end. Awesome, I want that getup. It is neither the best nor the worst movie ever. A solid C. That wraps up 1973, which honestly was a great year for television horror. The next time I see you, we'll be taking a break from the rankings to cover one of my beloved canceled shows. But after that, we're off to 1974. Thank you, spooky friends. I love you to death. Good night.